Hello and welcome to the Indie Minds video review of Gateways for the Xbox 360. Xbox Live Indie Games is a distribution service popular among many people, but still nowhere near as well known as its big brother Xbox Live Arcade. That hasn't stopped a few developers from gaining some notoriety, including Smudged Cat Games, a veteran of the scene, now having released a handful of titles in the service. Well, David Johnson, the developer behind Smudged Cat Games, is back with a brand new title called Gateways, which was released as part of the Indie Games Uprising promotional event. In Gateways, you play the role of a scientist who wakes up to find himself locked in his own lab, with all of his experimental technology gone missing. You're tasked with trying to navigate your way out of the lab while collecting all of your creations. First and foremost, let me get this out of the way. The initial impression everyone is going to get when starting Gateways is that it's a Portal clone. While that's not completely untrue, this game does so much more than that, which I'll get into in just a bit. Very early on, you'll be introduced to the first piece of hardware that functions exactly like the gun from Portal. You shoot a gateway at one location, shoot it a second time at a different location, and you can now transport yourself between the two spots by walking through the gate on either end. This is old hat for anyone who's been into gaming for the last few years. Gateways takes this concept so much further by introducing a handful of additional guns, each with their own unique spin on the mechanic. Before I show and talk about the various other guns you'll find, I've got to issue a spoiler warning right now if you don't want the surprise to be ruined for you. Eventually you unlock a gun that allows you to grow or shrink yourself. The outcome is based on which end of the gateway that you enter. If you go through the big gate, you'll come out shrunken on the little gate. You can make yourself a giant by performing the inverse operation. Some areas of the lab are completely inaccessible unless you shrink yourself, and there are also times where it's simply easier to navigate across large pits when you've been gigantified. Another of the guns that you'll run into will allow you to change the orientation of the game world. Perhaps there's a button on the ceiling you can't reach, or a tall passageway you need to get up. Well, you'll be able to once you flip the world and make the ceiling the floor. The resizing and orientation changing guns are fairly easy to get used to with just a little bit of practice. But there's another gun that will likely get most of the buzz you hear about Gateways. This gun allows you to travel back and forth through time, depending on when and which gate you enter. You lay down one end of the gate and wait for a timer to build up before placing the other end of the gate. As soon as you set that second gate, the timer bar begins moving forward across time, all the way from a few seconds before you set the gates to a few seconds afterwards. And through various power-ups you can collect while playing the game, you can actually lengthen that timer. By jumping through one of the two gates at a particular point in the timeline, you can actually jump back or forward through time. By jumping back in time, you can actually have multiple versions of yourself performing operations within the same time frame in order to open up doors to the next area. As the game goes along, you actually earn more and more echoes that allow you to have more clones in existence at the same time. You do have to be careful though. The repercussions of accidentally bumping into yourself aren't as severe as ripping a hole in the space-time continuum, but it will undo all of the operations you performed while the time travel sequence was in effect. It's really an amazing game mechanic that the developers created here. I thought that this gun alone could foster its very own game. Fair warning though, using this gun takes a lot of getting used to, and players should really seek out the gun's explanation and examples provided in the help system before trying to move forward in the game. This is a puzzle game, and so I'm sure everyone's going to want to hear about the puzzles. And the puzzles you'll encounter in Gateways are easily some of the best I've seen in any puzzle game, indie or otherwise. There were so many times I thought to myself, aha, or well done you tricky bastard, when solving one of them. For about 90% of the game, the rules dictate that you will only use one gun to solve any particular puzzle. And I thought this was a really smart design choice on the developer's part, because it keeps players from getting flustered by having to juggle multiple guns. However, I did have some minor complaints with that other 10% of the puzzles. You will reach a point in the game where the rules change, and you now have all four of the guns at your beck and call for every puzzle. You'll need to figure out what sequence in which to use each of them, or whether you need to use a particular gun at all. And the inclusion of time travel in most of these puzzles makes for a real head-spinning experience trying to basically grind out a solution. I like some challenge in my puzzle games, but a rare few of these puzzles are really going to test people's patience. In fact, there are a number of video solutions out on the internet for the final puzzle because it's just so difficult. I still didn't feel like this was enough to take the luster off of what was a really wonderful group of puzzles, and the whole set is as good as you're going to see anywhere in the gaming industry, not just indie games. After having reviewed Growing Pains, another title from Smudged Cat Games last year, and now Gateways, I feel like I've got a handle on what we can expect from Smudged Cat Games titles. You're likely going to get a game that's well designed with a presentational polish that you just don't see in many Xbox Live indie games. In the case of Gateways, you have a title that sets the high watermark for puzzle games on the service. So, despite some minor gripes with the difficulty, I had no qualms about rating the game a 5 out of a possible 5 points. I obviously enjoyed it, and I think you will too. Gateways is currently on sale in the Xbox Live Indie Games Marketplace for 80 Microsoft points. You can also purchase the PC version through Steam. Thanks for watching our video review of Gateways from developer Smudged Cat Games. For more indie gaming coverage, be sure to check us out at theindiemind.com.